I wake up in the morning to reports that the nuclear power plant in the UAE was struck with 3 drones. One of them managed to cause a fire in one of the generators. It came from the west, so it was either from Iraq, from Yemen, from Saudi, but unlikely, or Iran through Saudi. And then an hour and a half ago, we got reports of 3 drones, I think from Iraq towards Saudi. I think it's from Iraq, I'll have to check, that were intercepted. And all that happens as we get reports of Trump speaking to Netanyahu convening the cabinet, and then Trump having a meeting with his security team as well as advisors. He had one already. He's planning another one for Tuesday. And Trump making all these posts. One of them shows him potentially, makes it look like the U.S. is invading Iran. He posted it also in the last hour. My take is it seems like a warning shot from Iran. It kind of like, look, don't even think about it, because this time around, we will not go through an escalation ladder. It will be gloves off if you attack us again. That's how I saw it. The Saudi one is too recent to kind of get some thoughts on it, but would be probably in a similar camp. Is like Iran sending a message to the US and Israel that if war restarts, and they've said this before, if war restarts, it won't be like it was before. And if you remember a few weeks ago, they were threatening the energy infrastructure in the Gulf, Bab el-Mandeb Strait, of course, and the undersea cables, the internet cables under the sea. So, yeah, not looking good if you take that into consideration, along with all the crazy posts by Trump.
Have you considered false flag?
I saw that, yeah. I'd love to hear it from you. I haven't had anyone give me that take yet.
Well, so the drones came out of potentially either Saudi, out of Iraq, or out of Yemen. Who constructed a secret base in Iraq that was used in the attack on Iran?
Was 2 bases, 2.
Yeah. So
found out today it was actually 2 bases.
I think it starts with the letter I. Israel. Yeah, Israel. And why would Israel do that? So if what I've been hearing in terms of Russian-Chinese diplomatic efforts via Pakistan to create this new security architecture in the Gulf means that Saudis and Qataris will be principal ones involved with that. So one way to try to keep them from aligning, if essentially with Iran, is to launch attacks which they are led to believe are from Iran. Well, again, Iran is not going to start this. And Iran is not going to start attacking Saudi Arabia and Qatar and even the UAE right now on its own, because they're waiting. They're keeping their powder dry because they've got the diplomatic initiative. They're not going to surrender that. They don't need to. It's the United States that's posting threatening messages. Iran is always saying, hey, if we're attacked, we're going to retaliate. It's that simple. So I wouldn't rule out that this was an attempt to create the impression that Iran is attacking Saudi Arabia in order to make the Saudis angry with the Iranians so that they don't go forward with this deal that the Chinese and Russians are pushing. That's one other aspect to consider.
Yeah, and look, they have a history of conducting false flag attacks.
Yeah. You think?
I think they conducted a few false flag attacks, by the way. In this, they might have conducted a few false flag attacks in this war. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, remember,
by the way,
I was just saying, remember the attacks on Turkey? Or Turkey,
Azerbaijan. No, Turkey, Cyprus. Was there one in Azerbaijan? Yeah, there was something between Iran and Azerbaijan as well.
Yeah, so that you can't rule Israel out trying to conduct these operations to create the impression that it's Iran when it's not. Because Iran, look, they've made it very clear if attacked, if these escalate, they are going to retaliate and retaliate en masse, and. I think this is the stupidest thing that Trump and Bibi Netanyahu could ever want to do. Instead of trying to find a graceful exit and bring an end to this, they're going to expand it. And I think the West is going to suffer terribly from this, much more so than Iran.
Yeah. And if you consider that, by the way, you're talking about the Israeli base in Iraq. Today, there was a New York Times story. I'll read out my summary from my team. turns out there wasn't one secret Israeli base in Iraq, but two. The New York Times is reporting a second covert base in Iraq's western desert. Senior Iraqi regional officials confirming that to the Wall Street Journal, cracked open last week. At least one had been quietly running since late 2024, sitting inside Iraqi territory without Baghdad knowing, and at least one was used during the 12-day war against Iran last June. The only reason any of this surfaced is the Bedouin Shepherd. So, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so you
one scenario, and another.
You definitely have to consider that.
I think so. I agree. So if it is a false flag attack, obviously the intention is pretty clear. It's Israel trying to trigger war again and trying to turn. There's reports that the US is trying to convince, or was trying to convince, along with the Israelis, the UAE to directly join a conflict with Iran. And I really worry that the UAE is being played here. That's my concern. But we'll see.
If there's a betting market on that, go put all your money down on that, because you'll walk away a wealthy man. I mean, you already may be a wealthy man, but hey, the more the merrier. No, I guarantee you that's what's going on.
Yeah. But I in the early days of the war, I've said this a few times, something very fascinating happened. There was a Channel 12 report that the UAE struck the desalination plant in Iran. We posted it, and then the Israelis, the UAE immediately said, look, we didn't do it. And what is going on? And I had conversations with them. And there was a lot of concern they were being dragged into the war directly. And there's a lot of mystery. Even though they're working with Israel, I think people don't understand there isn't that level of trust. Now, I could be wrong. For Netanyahu to visit here, I could be wrong. But then again, Netanyahu then threw UAE under the bus and announced his visit. Despite, by the way, a report came out today, the UAE explicitly asked him not to share that he visited the UAE, not surprisingly. And he still shared it anyway for domestic political gains. So yeah, false flag. Now, if it is Iran, so we go with the other theory. If it is Iran, would you agree with my thoughts? This would be a warning to the US and Israel as we get indications they might strike again. This is Iran trying to deter that by warning that, similar to what we saw with the Operation Freedom. When that happened, Iran went all out to make it very clear, draw the line very clearly. And could this be Iran indicating that this time their approach to warfare will be different to what we saw previously?
No, I don't think it'll be an approach that it'll be different. It'll be more intense.
That's right.
You know, if you want to say that that's different, yeah, it'll be different in that regard. Much more intense, and they will, again, it depends upon the targets that the West is going to hit. Now, the notion that they have to sit down and figure out what they're going to do, that's nonsense. That the attack package has been ready for 5 weeks since the ceasefire. They already had those.
Maybe there's a few packages they want to decide which one.
No, they already know they already know the targets they want to hit. That's already factored in. Now the unknown is, will Saudi Arabia and Qatar, next Kuwait, continue to allow the United States to use their airspace and any other bases that are left? And that could end up being a holdup or preventative, prevent the United States from carrying out a new attack. Because if their air operation, their air operations require the ability to conduct aerial resupply or aerial refueling over Saudi Arabia and Qatar. But Saudi Arabia in particular, they've got to be able to carry out those refueling operations. And at Prince Saud Air Base and just outside of Riyadh, they do have a number of U.S. KC-135s, the air refuelers. That's where they're based.
Do you think they can? Go back to war if they don't have access to these bases in airspace, or that would make it pretty much impossible?
Yeah, it'd make it very well, not impossible, but really problematic and very risky,
and much harder to be able to conduct it to the same ferocity as the first phase.
Yeah, they can't. I mean, the reality is, without the cooperation of the Saudis and Qataris, so they'd be left to go into the Yemenis, but they still. You still got to fly over from Israel.
Oh, there's a report. There's a report that Yemen struck down a U.S. Reaper today as well.
Yeah.
You saw that?
Well, they've gotten good at that. Remember they knocked down let's see, they knocked down like 28 during the entirety of So first of Operation Prosperity Guardian, they were knocking down one a month. So that started in December of 2023. So you got 12, 2024, and then you had 12, and then you had 14 more, January, February, March. So 15, let's say they had 15 that downed, and then they downed, so 22 total during that entire Operation Prosperity Guardian / Rough Rider. So, they've gotten pretty, the Houthis know how to do that. They're pretty good at it.
Oil prices are not looking good. Just went up to over 107.
Yeah.
Spiked up 105.
Yeah, it should have been going up long before now. I mean, it's been artificially suppressed. And I don't know how they're doing it. I think part of it's been, again, the release in the United States of strategic oil reserves that have kept gasoline prices down. But that's good. That's going to end this week, I think, because Trump is unwilling to walk away, and because he's unwilling to walk away, the odds of a renewed war are extremely high.
Yeah. We have, just give you a bit of an update. Earlier today, Israel and the US are raising their alert level amid the possibility of renewed strikes. That's according to Khan News. Tensions are increasing as discussions continue over whether to resume coordinated military action. According to an Israeli official, if Trump approves renewed attacks, the strikes will be carried out jointly by both militaries. The plan under discussion reportedly includes targeting Iran's national energy infrastructure. A limited cabinet meeting is expected tonight in Israel as security concerns intensify. So that came in.
Go ahead. Sorry.
By Khan News. Now go ahead. What's the question?
Well, no, I was just going to note, if they go after Iran's power plant, that national electrical system, Iran is a big, complex country, so there's not just one node that you knock out and they're in trouble. The same doesn't apply to Israel. Israel's a small country, very easy to disrupt and destroy its power grid, its power system, and the same applies to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and United Arab Emirates. So, if the United States and Israel go down that route, just stand by. It's going to be lights out in those other countries.
Very stupid decision.
Yeah.
And I've said it a few times today. If it happens, I think I said it to you as well. It's Trump deciding to just throw away the Gulf and his relationship with the Gulf. It's very clear. Trump posted, as you know, a whole bunch of things. Lisa, can you put that post of the map of Iran just now? Meanwhile, for Iran, the clock, he said also earlier today, for Iran, the clock is ticking and they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left for them. Time is of essence. So that was earlier today. He then posted this, among other things, that's one thing he posted, just a map of Iran. And people were kind of taking it as to mean one or two things. One is Iran's being attacked from all directions or Iran being invaded. But I'll take it as just Trump being Trump. I think it's just the meaning, his posts have lost, you could take it out, Lisa, but his posts have lost the meaning they used to have or the impact they used to have. Obviously, we know that. But he posted a whole bunch of things. Lisa, can you go through the Truth Social account? We can scroll through. You probably saw them, Larry. Meanwhile, as Lisa brings up his Truth Social account, Trump told Axios that the clock is ticking for Iran, same thing as he posted. And they said they're going to get hit much harder. Also, Trump said to Israeli media, the Iranians should be very scared of me. They should come up with a better offer and soon. They need to be careful or we'll hit them much harder than before. My worry with all this, Larry, I know it's him doing what he always does. Sure. You see some of his posts. There's some bizarre stuff. It's Space Force, him striking and destroying asteroids in space. That's some of the thing. He posted other stuff as well. Thanks, Lisa. My worry with all this is because this is his base reading all this. And when he says things like this, he's kind of putting himself in a corner where he's making it harder and harder for himself to walk away. That's what really worries me.
Yeah, and let's understand, it's actually, Trump's not writing these. Trump is, we got some insight the other day through a New York Times piece, or maybe it was Wall Street Journal. I don't recall precisely which one, but there's a young woman named Harp. And so she drafts these things up, and then they submit them to Trump for approval, and then he signs off on them, and then they release them. So, this is you've got people who really aren't very skilled, very smart, very experienced, writing up the stupidity, and then Trump puts it out, and he really doesn't have a context. He doesn't have a full grasp of the intelligence. It's just they propagandize like one of the posts from about an hour ago. Empty oil tankers are sailing to the U.S. to load up on oil, and he ignores the fact that actually the United States doesn't have that much oil to sell. We've actually got some limited amounts, and again, it's he's touting the Space Force, which is basically the main means of destroying satellites. And the image is he shows a nuclear bomb going off, and he shows attacks on basically Russian and Chinese satellites. That's what he's showing, and he shows himself pushing the red button. This is, again, people are now feeding this to his ego, and then they got one of him walking on water. It's just
there's another one of him saying the calm before the storm or something with warships behind him. Ironically, those warships had Iranian flags. I don't know if that was intentional, but it's really hard to understand. But do you agree with my concern is that the more he does this, the more he makes it harder for himself to walk away, because his base is like, hey, you were posting just a few days ago and telling the media that if they don't give you a better deal, you're going to attack them harder. Yeah. And now you're walking away. Whereas if he didn't use that rhetoric consistently, especially today, then walking away would be more feasible, at least in the eyes of his MAGA base.
Well, I guess I don't necessarily accept the assumption that he wants to walk away. I think he is, again, a puppet. He is a victim of the Zionist lobby, and if he was left alone just to make his own decision, I think he would turn away from this and he'd move on to something else. But the lies he's being told about Iran, and the fact that it's being presented that you don't have any choice. If you don't do this, Iran's going to get the bomb, and you're making greater strides than any president ever has. And the Iranians, they only got enough oil and money to last for a day or two. They're on the ropes, all of that, and he just happily goes along with it, not exercising any kind of critical thinking skill, and certainly not voicing any kind of vision of what he wants for the Persian Gulf and Iran, other than the death of Iran.
So there's something came out on Fars News. Just on last question, I think if hypothetically he does want to walk away, or if it was at least an option, let's say he had an option, either escalate or I'll walk away, that option becomes harder to implement if he keeps talking like this. Fars News put out a report this morning. They're comparing US demands versus Iranian demands. So they listed the American demands as such, according to Fars News. No compensation for war damages, understood. Transfer of Iran's 400 kilograms of enriched uranium to the US. Obviously, that's Iran wants to transfer it to Russia, right, which is fine. Iran to maintain just a single nuclear facility in the entire country. That's difficult to achieve, but might seem like a concession on the American side compared to the early days of total surrender. No release of Iran's frozen assets. Well, that's a red line for Iran. They want their frozen assets. And lastly, U.S. demand a ceasefire conditional on the success of the talks between U.S. and Iran. The Iranian demands, according to Fast News, one, ceasefire on all fronts, lifting of all sanctions on Iran, release of all frozen assets, reparations, and recognition of sovereignty of the Strait of Hormuz. Same position we've discussed time and time again. Yeah. One thing is clear, though, that they're very far apart. I know we've said this a lot, so maybe I'll add this. They're still very far apart. That hasn't changed.
Right. It's an unbridgeable gulf. The only thing that will bring the United States around is when the economic crisis becomes so deep and the need to get a normality restored to the Strait of Hormuz becomes so great that then Trump will blink and they'll begin making the concessions they need to make. But by then, frankly, it's going to be too late. The damage to the global economy is done. It's now baked in. And the combination, the biggest thing that really ought to worry people is the loss of fertilizer, the global loss of fertilizer, upwards of a third, 1/3 of percent, which means there's going to be less land put into productive activities like growing crops, and there will be fewer crops to harvest, which means, less rice, less corn, less wheat. And then, people wanting to get fed, they're going to face skyrocketing prices with those commodities, and they're going to experience shortages, just like the shortages with oil are now showing up.